Hi, my name is Ruben, and I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and this is my addicted brain. I'm doing this podcast to hold myself accountable on this journey towards becoming straight again, and I'm also doing it to kind of log that journey so that I can look back and see how it went and how I felt and all of that stuff. But of course, I'm hoping that maybe this can help other people find motivation or inspiration to do the same, because I know that there's millions of people out there in the same situation as I am in right now. So that's also a reason why I'm doing this. But firstly, I'm doing it just to hold myself accountable and to stay on track, I guess. So I just had a massive relapse after staying sober and clean for almost a year. But then a lot of stuff happened, and it was almost impossible to not go down this rabbit hole. But I'll tell you all about that in the next episode, I think, because in this first one I thought it would make more sense to just introduce myself and share my story of how I ended up in this place. So I still remember the first time I was under the influence of anything, and of course that was alcohol. I was 12 and I stole some moonshine from my parents. Actually quite a bit. I think I had like half a liter that I stole, and then I showed my friends and we just got stupid drunk at the youth club. Of course everyone realized what was happening, so it didn't take too long before the police got there, and we had to spend a bit of time in the drunk tank as 12-year-olds. I think they did that to try and scare us to not go down that road again. But of course the opposite happened. So the very next day we went out and we did it again. I loved alcohol from the very first time I felt drunk. I loved the way it made me feel. I loved the way it changed my, I was introverted and really shy, and with a bit of alcohol I felt so much cooler. So I kept doing that every chance I got, and it stayed like that until it never changed, really. So, but along the way, I was of course introduced to environments where other things were also kind of normalized. So it didn't take too long before I found friends that smoked cannabis. So of course I was really curious about that and started smoking, experimenting with cannabis. And that's around the time when something really traumatizing happened to me. So I'm just gonna insert this tiny part of this story in here. We're probably gonna talk more about this later, but right now I just wanna. It's an important part of the story, so I'm just gonna tease it, I guess. When I was 16, there was this girl I was in love with, and I think she was also in love with me too, but she was seeing someone else. She was dating this adult guy. He was like 30. We were 16 and he was 30, and he was a drug dealer. He was a gangster. He was a dangerous person. But they were dating, I guess, and I think she didn't know how to get out of that relationship. But deep down, she was in love with me too. And then we met at a party and we accidentally had sex. And the very next day, I was hungover with a buddy, and we ordered some pizza. And the doorbell rang. I thought it was the pizza coming, but it was him. And he beat the shit out of me. And he was on something. Like, I just opened the door and there he was, and his eyes were just black. He was so angry and he was so scary. And all of his buddies were sitting in his car in our driveway. He was drunk as well. And I just froze. I was terrified. and he just beat the shit out of me and left. But that wasn't the last of that, because he kept terrorizing me, stalking me, sending me message. He was basically terrorizing me for 2 years after that, until I was 18. And I finally had enough, so I left, and I moved to the States. I took like a year in the US to get away from this guy. So I went over there and had a year where I could just lower my shoulders a little bit, and met a lot of new people. Of course, in the US, cannabis is a lot more accessible than it is here in Norway. So I started smoking a lot, so much. Like, I smoked every day, and I just went deep down that rabbit hole and became complete pothead. So when it came time to go back to Norway, where cannabis is not as accessible as it is over there, I had to seek out people that were on the fringes of society to get a hold of it. And that's also when I started meeting the people that would introduce me to speed. So it didn't take long before I was, curious to try that as well. I saw the effect that it had on my new friends, and it didn't really take much to convince me to try it. And once I did, I was like, woof. It gave me confidence, it gave me energy, it gave me, I felt like Superman. I felt like I could conquer anything. I felt like all of my fears were just stripped away, and I felt so great. So I started taking that every weekend, every party I went to. And eventually I started buying my own supply. And when the party was over, there was always a little bit left. So I started taking that to cure the worst of the hangovers. And then, it just spiraled out. And before I knew it, I was taking it every day. And at this point, I was taking it to feel normal. The confidence and all that stuff were gone. Now it had completely switched around on me, and if I didn't take it, I felt like shit. And if I took it, I felt like I did before I started taking it. And I was still pretty much feeling like shit. So yeah, it got pretty bad. And of course, if you have any experience taking amphetamines, you know that it really frazzles your nerves. And the only thing that helps with those nerves are alcohol and pills. So I started drinking beer to kind of round off those sharp edges of my nerves. And that also spiraled out. And before I knew it, I was drinking 6 to 12 beers every day and snorting a lot of speed or coke or meth, whatever I could find of stimulants. That just went on for years. And the most interesting part of this is that I actually was a pretty functioning member of society. I kept my job. I kept my relationship with my family. I had a girlfriend through the whole thing. And I was very much leading a double life. When I didn't have anything and I was kind of in withdrawal, that's when my family and my people around me thought I was on something. And when I was using, they were like, oh, you seem so good, you seem so happy. Great, everyone's happy. But I managed to maintain my job, managed to maintain my relationship with my family and my girlfriend. I managed to buy myself a house that I renovated. And but under the surface, I wasn't okay at all. I was transitioning from shy and introverted boy to a complete train wreck of an alcoholic and a drug abuser, an addict. So, but after about 3 to 4 years of this, it started really affecting my health. I got very sick. I started passing out everywhere. I passed out in the grocery store. I passed out while I was driving a car. I passed out while, just sitting on the couch. And it came on like a massive head rush. So I had like 5 seconds to hold on to something or whatever, or I would fall to the floor. So one day I had a friend over who was kind of in the same situation as me. He had it a bit more under control, but he loved taking speed and he loved smoking weed, and but he was good at controlling his intake, which I am not, and I'll get back to that because that's also part of the whole relapse journey here. But yeah, he was over and we did our thing. We were playing video games and I just went up to go get another beer and I passed out. And then he woke me up and we were laughing a bit about it, and I got off the floor and then I just passed out again and again and again. And after 6 times of that, he was like, dude, I'm calling an ambulance, you're not well. And I begged him not to do that and just help me to the couch. And then he left, told me to call him the next day so he knew everything was all right. But yeah, I fell asleep on that couch and I stayed there for 14 days and I just decided to get clean. So I flushed $1,000 worth of speed down the toilet and just didn't look back. I decided to get clean. And this was in probably about 17 years ago now, like around 2010, I'd say. 2011 maybe. It's been a while, and so it's actually 17 years or 16 years. Jesus, I thought it was like 10, but it's actually almost double that. I'm getting old. But yeah, I never looked back. I kept drinking and I kept smoking but I spent 3 months in the worst depression and the worst feelings I've ever had. And then I started feeling better and I kept smoking and drinking to kind of take the edge off, and I was doing pretty good. I didn't drink as much anymore either because, when you're on speed, you can drink 20 beers without getting drunk. When you're not on speed, I can't even drink 8 before getting drunk. So alcohol consumption went down. I smoked a lot with my new girlfriend, but things were getting better. And then I met my current girlfriend, my wife, and she was, straight as you can get, no drugs, or she doesn't even drink or anything. So when we started dating and we found each other, everything changed, and I smoked a little bit and I drank a little bit, but nothing like it was. And this was around 2016 that all of this changed. So for the last 10 years, I've pretty much been, as sober as anyone else. But then everything happened, everything spiraled out, and I had my massive relapse. So I'm going to tell you all about that in the next episode of this podcast. But for now, I want to stop here. We'll get into the whole relapse story next week. I'm planning on doing these episodes every week just to kind of have a time schedule and also have some more stuff to talk about. Tell you all about how the week has went, and yeah, I don't really know how to finish this episode off. I felt like it was too abrupt. I went through my whole story so fast and there's so much more to tell about it, but I mean, all the details are probably gonna surface through each episode moving forward here. So, but now at least you know kind of the gist of where I come from and what my drugs of choice are, and some of the stuff that I'm going through, some of the stuff that I'm feeling. But this is my first sober day in 2 months, and right now it actually doesn't feel that horrible. But I know that tomorrow is probably gonna feel a lot worse, and the week that is coming now is not gonna be a walk in the park. There's a lot of stuff I have to figure out and deal with. But yeah, I'll catch you up next Sunday, and I'll see you then. So have a good one.